a Ferrari worth $50 million just to hear the engine roar. A museum worth over $1 billion in the middle of the forest, where no one is allowed to take photos. A family earning hundreds of millions each day, all from the beep at the checkout counter. They never appear in public, but their power flows through every transaction you make. Join us as we explore the families who own America, and one family that will surprise you because they've never needed to show their faces. The Empire Builder, the untold story of the Arnault family. In northern France in the 1950s, a boy named Bernard would often walk slowly behind his father, a small construction contractor, just to listen. He wasn't poor, but he lacked something he would pursue for the rest of his life: respect. While his peers were immersed in rock music and afternoons playing soccer, Bernard quietly pored over financial reports. In his eyes, the world was not defined by applause, but by who controlled what people desired. And if desire was the strongest force, then a brand was the rein that guided the world. At 25, he didn't choose to inherit the family business. He sold it. He used all the money to buy a struggling conglomerate, Boussac, the company that owned the Christian Dior brand. The press mocked him, France doubted him, and investors shook their heads. A 30-year-old running a fashion empire. No one believed it, except him. 3 years later, Dior rose from the ashes like a phoenix. And that was just the beginning. Bernard continued to devour the luxury industry. Givenchy, Kenzo, Louis Vuitton, Bulgari, Tiffany Co., Dom Perignon, Hennessy. Each deal was like a sharp knife. No negotiations, just a price. And he was the one who said it. But true power never flaunts itself. In Bordeaux, there is a castle called Chateau Cheval Blanc. No guns guard it, only the scent of wine that has seeped into the stones over a century. Beneath the ground lies a wine cellar, where dim light filters through and Warhol paintings hang beside oak barrels aging Grand Cru wine like jewels of time. Visitors are not allowed to bring their phones. For power, once captured in a photograph, loses its strength. In Beverly Hills, he owns a $137 million mansion that was once the home of a music legend. In Geneva, a lakeside estate with an underground ballroom and a 7-story wine cellar is hidden behind anti-reflective glass. But strangely, no one has an official photo of any of his mansions. Because he doesn't live to be seen. He lives to be known without appearing. A few hours by helicopter from Nassau lies an island called Indigo. No maps, no signs. But satellites have captured images of familiar faces: the CEO of Apple, the chairman of Hermes, and even Middle Eastern tycoons. They don't come here for vacation. They come to hear him speak. Just a glass of 1990 Cheval Blanc, an offer they can't refuse. No contracts, no lawyers. Just a nod and a silent agreement. In the middle of the Mediterranean, there is a yacht named Symphony, over 100 meters long. No flag, no owner's name. But in the fourth deck meeting room, there is a hand-engraved LV logo. This is where Bernard writes letters to his designers before each fashion season. No emails, no Zoom meetings. Just ink, paper, and the sea. Fashion is like the ocean, he once said. You can't control it, but if you understand the flow, you will lead. His private jet, a Global 7500, is where mornings worth hundreds of millions of euros unfold. 4 cabins, a walnut-paneled meeting room, a Louis Vuitton cashmere-lined bedroom, a dining room with custom baccarat glasses. When he takes off from Geneva, he owns an Italian brand. When he lands, it belongs to LVMH. Arnault doesn't just own over 1,000 works of art. He owns their silence. No displays, no flaunting. Some are in wine cellars. Some are in the $135 million Fondation Louis Vuitton Museum. No one knows where they are. Because he doesn't buy art to collect. He buys it to protect his power in a way that no one can trace. No one elected him as a leader. He didn't need to run for office. With every Louis Vuitton bag sold, the world is voting for him. Holding 64% of the voting rights in the world's largest luxury goods company, he doesn't just own 75 brands, he owns humanity's sense of taste. Every Paris Fashion Week runway is a stage, with billion-dollar contracts with Middle Eastern investment funds or Silicon Valley tech giants behind the scenes. But the smartest thing he didn't let power slip away after stepping down from the throne. He established Agaichi Commandite, an alliance where his 5 children share power. On paper, everyone is equal. But in reality, the final decisions still rest with him. A family pact: no one may sell their shares for 30 years. No one may outshine another. And he remains the one holding the crown. In the summer following the pandemic, a secret meeting took place within an old mansion in Paris. No images, no statements, no records. All that is known is that hundreds of millions of euros were poured into art schools, young designers, and French cultural heritage. At the same time, minor adjustments to tax and trade policies emerged, all benefiting LVMH. Beyond that call, no one knows what was discussed. But everyone understands he does not represent the company. He represents a culture. In 2023, the media was abuzz. Frédéric Arnault, the young CEO of Tag Heuer, once seen as the heir apparent, suddenly did not appear at a global event in Switzerland. No scandal. Just a call from his father at 2 a.m., you won't go. Someone else was chosen, this time someone else. Delphine Arnault, his eldest daughter who had just become CEO of Dior. She was the one who signed a $2 billion investment deal with a Middle Eastern partner. From then on, Frédéric vanished from the spotlight. On Instagram, his bio read just 4 words, not the chosen one. Because in the Arnault family, there are no scandals. The real battles take place behind closed doors. And finally, a question for you: in a world where everyone wants to be seen, who truly holds the power? Leave your thoughts below. If Bernard Arnault built an empire through taste and silence, then across the ocean, there's a family that doesn't need art. Just a single beep at the checkout counter to shake up the entire United States. And they do it every day. The silent empire, the Walton family's secret rule of America. Every great empire begins with something seemingly ordinary. A small store nestled in Bentonville, Arkansas. An old truck with worn-out tires on dusty red roads. And a simple promise to offer the lowest prices to American workers. No one could have imagined that from that remote town would emerge a family that would come to control the most powerful retail empire on the planet, with a fortune exceeding $250 billion. Every beep at a Walmart checkout counter is another brick in the Walton family's impregnable financial fortress. No gold-plated parties on the French Riviera. No need to flaunt yachts or private jets on Instagram. For them, a single beep from the Walmart checkout scanner is enough for every penny to quietly flow into their private coffers. The entire United States goes shopping, and the Walton family grows richer. No need for spotlights. No need for a stage. Just the spending habits of millions of people. Rob Walton, the elderly heir, owns a Ferrari 250 GTO worth over $50 million, but not to drive, but to hear the engine roar every time it rains. His sister, Alice Walton, the richest single woman in the United States, didn't choose to live in a gold-plated mansion. She built a $1 billion museum in the Arkansas woods, displaying masterpieces by Rockwell, Warhol, and Georgia O'Keeffe, not to show off, but as if to preserve the memory of an entire nation. They don't have private jets, they have a fleet of them. Gulfstreams are just the tip of the iceberg. Behind the scenes is a military-style operational system, not to impress, but to ensure that the massive retail empire keeps running smoothly. While many billionaires rush into politics, Walton quietly chooses to stay behind the scenes. But whenever Congress debates corporate taxes, a neutral report appears at the right time, protecting the interests of large corporations. Who funds it? The Walton Family Foundation. They control everything, not through public power, but through silence. A silence more powerful than any speech. Powerful enough to decide state budgets, hospital investments, and school funding. In Arkansas, they don't need to fight the governor for power, they're on a level above the Constitution. The Walton family is so secretive that it seems there's nothing to talk about. But the past isn't entirely clean. Alice was involved in a serious accident. She wasn't charged. She was also arrested for drunk driving and only received a light sentence. These incidents raise the question, is justice truly for everyone, or can it also be negotiated? Meanwhile, Walmart, the family's money-making machine, faces hundreds of lawsuits over working conditions. Workers strike. Unions protest. But the stores open every morning as usual, as if the cries from the warehouses never reached the boardroom where dividends are distributed. Now it's the new generation. Lucas Walton, Sam's grandson, is unlike anyone else in the family. He talks about ESG, renewable energy, and sustainable investing. In a family that made its fortune on mass consumption and massive emissions, Lucas is an oddball. But perhaps he is the one asking the big question: if the family no longer shares the same values, can it continue to stand? There are many kinds of wealth in America: wealth from invention, from fame, from luck. But only one family makes millions of people spend money exactly as they want them to. What scares people isn't the size of their fortune. It's how they use it, quietly, subtly, leaving no trace. And have you ever thought that every time you scan a barcode at the supermarket, you're silently handing power to a family that's never run for office? The Walton family is wealthy because of consumer habits. But there is a family even deeper than human behavior. They don't sell anything. They manipulate how the world operates. No one votes for them. No one sees them. But from the 18th century to the present, every financial crisis bears the mark of Rothschild. Rothschild, the hidden hand behind empires. A name that never graces magazine covers, never echoes in campaign speeches, yet is whispered in places where true power resides: royal halls, Wall Street boardrooms, and quiet cocktail parties where power speaks softly and the world listens. That name is Rothschild. They don't rule with armies or laws. They rule through silence. And when Lord Jacob Rothschild passed away not long ago, a chapter ended, but an even more mysterious one began. Have you ever wondered what it would look like if a family didn't need to be elected, yet still had the power to shake empires? It began in 1744 in the slums of Judengasse, Frankfurt. A poor boy was born, Mayor Amschel Rothschild. He had no right to inherit anything, but he had a vision. And a symbol, 5 arrows, bound together, promising the family would never be divided. Mayer started with old coins and medals. But what he truly traded was trust. That trust won him the favor of Prince Wilhelm IX, one of Europe's most powerful men. A boy raised in the shadows who learned how to sell light. But he didn't keep success for himself. Mayer sent his 5 sons across Europe to London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, and Frankfurt. No swords, only signatures. Within decades, they controlled what kings once spilled blood for. It's no coincidence that in places like the British Parliament, the Elysee Palace, and Vienna, politicians knew the Rothschild name, though it rarely appeared on paper. They didn't write laws, but lawmakers consulted them before major decisions. At their peak, estimates put the family's net worth between $500 and $1,000 billion, adjusted to today's value. But the real number is unknown, hidden beneath complex, discrete ownership structures. They don't need to hold power, because those in power owe them. They built mansions like Waddesdon Manor, Château de Ferrières, and Villa Efrussi, more beautiful than paintings, more private than fortresses. These weren't homes. They were places where the world was shaped. No flags, no anthems, just decisions. Nathan Rothschild, the London Sun, didn't wait for government reports. He built his own information network. When Britain still didn't know the outcome of Waterloo, Nathan already did. And he acted. A few secret trades, a few hours of silence, and the entire British market collapsed. So who truly won Waterloo, Wellington or Rothschild? But behind the empire was sacrifice. Marriages without love. Rules marry within the family. Only men inherit and no leaks. One heir took his own life for loving someone outside the bloodline. She didn't carry the Rothschild name, that was enough. Even within the family, there were conflicts, not over wealth, but influence. The Paris, London, and Vienna branches fought quietly over who would shape the next era. Leaked letters from the early 1900s suggest they once collaborated to manipulate Europe's strategic prices in ways that can't be traced. So we ask, in a world where everything is exposed, does true power live in the light, or still hide behind a name that never needed to be seen? If the Rothschilds are the invisible hand of Europe, then in the Middle East, power is not hidden. It wears a crown, flies private jets, and makes the world bow down. For there, all it takes is a drill bit in the desert, and the world looks up to the Al Saud family. Al Saud, a royal family so wealthy that even the king must bow his head. Some families are born to rule. Some families must fight to keep the throne. But there is one family that has never asked for power from anyone, yet the world still bows its head. Not through many generations, but through a single decision. And at the center of that empire is a single family, Al Saud. The story does not begin with a revolution, but with a quiet moment in the desert. A drill pierces the earth, striking an invisible black vein. No light, no explosion. But from that darkness, power begins to rise, colorless, odorless, yet capable of transforming everything the world holds dear. Barrels of oil turned into streams of dollars, and each member of the royal family became a living legend. Today, the Al Saud family has more than 15,000 members, but only a few hundred of them hold real power. They live like gods, with their own planes, their own budgets, their own bodyguards. They don't run for office. They aren't controlled by parliament. They give orders with a glance. And the estimated total assets of the entire family? More than $1.4 trillion, more than the GDP of most countries on the planet. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who has been likened to the CEO of Saudi Arabia, once bought Chateau Louis Asivi, a castle near Versailles. The price? $300 million. But not to live in. Just for weekend getaways. And when he wants to admire the sea, MBS boards the Serene, a 134-meter-long yacht with a helicopter pad, a cinema, and even an underwater ballroom. The price? $500 million. But that's not the pinnacle of luxury. And King Salman? He lives in Al Yamama Palace, a fortress in the desert where every brick was imported from Italy. The walls are equipped with a Yud-made anti-eavesdropping system. The meeting rooms are draped in hand-embroidered silk. And when he enters, no one dares to speak before him. It's not just castles or yachts. This family also owns an uncountable collection of supercars. Over 500 vehicles, from Lamborghini Veneno to Rolls-Royce Sweptail, each engraved with the name of a prince. There's a McLaren P1 that only starts when two princes touch the biosensor, a symbol of silent yet absolute power. And the pinnacle of opulence. Leonardo da Vinci's painting Salvator Mundi, depicting Jesus Christ, was purchased by an Al Saud family member for $450 million. A question arises, why would a Muslim family buy a painting of Jesus Christ? No one knows, and no one dares to ask. Because here, silence is a weapon. In the US, power comes from the ballot box. In the UK, it is passed down from the throne. But in Saudi Arabia, power flows through the blood from Joseph bin Saud over 300 years ago to King Salman and Crown Prince MBS today. And that power is not just a symbol. King Salman is the guardian of Islam's two holiest sites, Mecca and Medina. But the man steering Saudi Arabia's future is MBS, the defense minister and chairman of the Public Investment Fund, PIF, which is worth more than $700 billion. Under MBS, Saudi Arabia is being reborn, from oil to technology, from closed to entertainment, from a barren desert to a global stage. He has invested in Uber, Twitter, and Lucid Motors. He created the Live Golf series to challenge the entire American sports system. But all power comes at a price. In November 2017, the Ritz-Carlton Riyadh Hotel suddenly closed its doors. No guests were allowed in. Inside were more than 200 princes, billionaires, and businessmen arrested without trial. It was an unprecedented anti-corruption campaign initiated by MBS himself. Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, once dubbed the Warren Buffett of the Middle East, was isolated and had his phone confiscated. He was only released after transferring most of his assets to the state. After the incident, some royal family members fled abroad. Some princesses were placed under house arrest. But no one dared to openly oppose MBS. Because MBS does not just represent a new generation. He is the new era. An era where blood, money, and power are no longer separate. What do you think? In an age when the world demands transparency, can an empire built on silence, glory, and fear survive? Or is it precisely that silence that makes them invincible? They don't need to be elected. They don't need to make speeches. But every spending decision in the United States bears their mark. So what do you think? Is there really a family that truly owns a country without ruling it? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this silent yet undeniable portrait. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on more stories about the wealthiest, most powerful, and most mysterious people in the world. Thank you for watching.